Oh my goodness. I had to steal that one straight from Lucas because, oh my gosh. So today, going over a general, I guess, first impression of this subreddit I found called Female Dating Strategies. Now, if you watched the last video, you would have noticed that I responded to a video I found on that subreddit. This is me actually tackling that subreddit. And I'm going to be tackling different posts from it just as, as time goes on, because there's really a lot to break down. There's just, it's a gold mine, it's a wealth, and it's really, really interesting because it gives you a good look into the minds of females and how bitter they are. Now, I want to start right there, right? Because it's really interesting to me that this subreddit exists as, what's the best way to describe it? It's basically a subreddit designed by women to teach other women how to date high-valued males they call HVM. Now, what exactly is a high-value male? I'm sure a lot of people probably all have their own conclusions or their own assumptions of what that really is, and honestly, it's not clearly defined from the posts, but I do think that there is a post on the subreddit that will define that I'll go find, and we'll talk about that, in its own video. But basically, the principal idea of the subreddit is to try to teach women how to avoid red flags or bad relationships from men and how to pick good relationships from guys. Now, that sounds really awesome, like in principle, right? It's only when you actually start reading the posts, and it's only actually when you start seeing the mindset these women are in, do you find that we've got a little bit of an issue. And one of those issues is the fact that the subreddit exists, as in, like, women have to strategize on some way to date men, as if there's any strategy or challenge into doing so. In fact, most of the women that I've ever tried to date, I went and I approached them. All they had to do was just yay or nay me, and then that was just that. They didn't need to strategize. They didn't need to do anything except be in an area that I was in and then get approached. It's like the idea that women have to, like, consider or think or renegotiate or try to figure out, like, men or crack the code and whatnot, it seems a little bit off to me. That is, until you start recognizing that a lot of women are, I want to go as far as to say it's not stupid, it's foolish. Foolish is the word. Because I've noticed something about female dating strategies from reading some of their posts. And that is, a lot of these women seem to have been browbeaten by their relationships with males. Like, they've dated guys who just used them for sex. They dated guys who basically treated them poorly. It's basically everything that I've said that women are normally going through in my video catalogs. I'm sure if you're new here, you probably have never seen that, but like, I've got like over 500 videos, not all of them on this, but a lot of them on this, talking about women picking awful relationships or being in awful relationships, and then by some Herculean leap in logic, after her heart has been crushed and ran through and her vagina has been blasted by numerous men, finally, after all of that, she finally was like, you know what, man, maybe I shouldn't date guys who cheat on, and that happens a lot. And it's really interesting to me, not only because I always am of the mindset that, like, there's, like, absolutely literally no reason to go through all of that, not only because we're in the information age of the internet where you can just read other people's experiences, see those red flags, and avoid them, which I think is part of what this subreddit is attempting to do. Not only just that, but also there's this thing that my auntie kind of beat it into me, and nowadays I believe it to be a ultra super secret mystical power and ability, a skill passed down from the ages that only the few, only the select are able to obtain, and that ability is known as common sense. There's like, and I'm going to read some of these posts, but there's like a lot of basic kind of common sense when it comes to dating and relationships that women seem to purposefully avoid. Now, depending on which type of branch of philosophy you want to go into, if you want to take the red pill, you've got your answers as to why women accept it. If you want to take the black pill, you've got your answers as to why women accept it. The long and short of it is, there's not really much point in going into why women accept it in this video, just the fact that women oftentimes go through awful relationships over and over and over again, and then finally, when they get tired of it, or maybe when they just become too old and their looks aren't enough to attract the high-valued males, or the attractive males, or the high-demand males might be a better word to use, then they start reevaluating their life decisions and trying to find some guy to be with them and whatever, right? Happens, okay? So the subreddit, in principle, isn't awful. It's only until you start actually reading the posts do you start finding that these women are oftentimes raging against the machine of a very particular type of individual. And it's really funny to me because, I'm just going to say it bluntly, a lot of these women are raging at Chad, but have a disdain for all dudes, or like has a very poor opinion of males in general, when the only men that they're really upset with are just the guys who have the option and availability to bounce between lots of girls. Like there's a lot of criticism on there for men who are using women for sex, which is a really interesting thing to me because I've never used a woman for sex before. I've had, most of my friends have never done that before. I've only ever had like one friend you could call like a chat. And I'm only using this terminology because I know people understand it. I think it's kind of stupid, but whatever. Or maybe Tyrone. Maybe Tyrone because he was a black guy. I've only really had one friend like that. Now the interesting thing about that friend was that as much as he did just have sex with girls and just like not really care too much about them, he was always upfront and clear about it, right? Like he always told them what it was and they always accepted it. And so that's always something that's been really peculiar to me, that any woman could, I say peculiar, it's not really peculiar, but I always think that it is a little bull crap that girls somehow renege on an understanding as clear as that, and then they get their feelings hurt anyway. It's almost like, you know, having sex is an intimate act and it will create emotional feelings of investment with someone. Just saying. Point is, my one Tyrone friend, I guess you could say, was my one Tyrone friend. Most of my other male friends, and most of the other males I've just encountered in life, not even just the internet, just in life, are not able to consistently date women. They're not able to have multiple strings of relationships with women. They're not able to bounce between lots of women. So the criticism that most males only want to have sex is never something that's ever jived with me. Not just personally, but it's never jived with me just in the perceptive reality that I've seen. Now, I've talked about incels a lot on my channel. I've talked about simps on my channel every now and again. I'm going to make another video where I talk about simps, you know, specifically. But you'll have these guys who are watching Twitch streams, they're watching webcams, they're paying on Twitter, on OnlyFans, they're paying for intimacy from women. You have a huge audience of men who are like this, who are addicted to porn. You have lots of men who are not able to have relationships with women. And so it's really interesting to me that we can have a dichotomy like this. Oftentimes the truth is usually in the middle, but you have a lot of have-nots of males. The vast majority of dating experiences of males is one of constant rejection before you finally get a relationship that may or may not stick. It's only a few males, or like the top or high demand males you could say, who are able to consistently go throughout having relationships with women. So the reason why this subreddit becomes really peculiar to me is because a lot of these women seem to have this perception that the vast majority of males are able to bounce around and date between lots of different women and have side chicks and are just usually disrespectful, usually cruel, usually mean. And that just seems really, really far from the truth. Now, I don't know very many guys that have like an undying respect for like the mere existence of women. Like they're not just like, I don't even know how to like conceptualize this. Like they don't like kiss the ground that women walk on, but they're cool with women. Like most people's, you know, are just kind of neutral to each other. You know, like as much as like there's a gender war on the internet, in most of reality, you know, outside of the internet, people are particularly cool about males and females, and usually, maybe not always, but usually. So most of the guys that I've always known and that I've always seen are just, a woman is just a woman. Like either she's okay or she's bad, either she's annoying or she's not. No one is really like, oh, she's a girl, so I dislike her. That seems to usually only exist on like the internet, you know what I mean? And even then, like that's usually over exaggerated. The whole point in like saying this is to say that like the perception that female dating strategies has of men seems to only be of the most toxic men that they've dated. Now, of course, this actually is reasonable if all of your relationships have been like this before, right? If every guy that you've dated has been an awful jerk-off who's had a side chick and disrespect you and treat you poorly, you know, just basically like your association with males would be that type of character, right? They just, if that was constantly what was going on, that's all you saw. Like you have no counter argument, or you have no counter reference for that. Now, this is why it becomes really peculiar to me, and this is why I think it's really funny. It's because the vast majority of men are just kind of all right people. Like they're not terrible, they're not cruel, they're not going to be hurtful. But a lot of women oftentimes always seem to find themselves in relationships with shitty, terrible people because they bloody pick them. And see, this is why I can't really co-sign with female dating strategies way too much, because the more posts that I read, the more discounting of responsibility I see all the time. And as the videos go on, you guys are going to see exactly what I'm talking about when I say a discount. You guys are going to see exactly what I'm talking about here. Okay, so this video here is just an overview of their perception. Now, the reason why I'm going to be making all these different videos is because I want to highlight this over-glaring problem that a lot of young ladies are having. And that is the fact that they're projecting their disdain for Chad to all males. And I know I'm using incel terminology. I just think it's hilarious. Like, don't take it too seriously. But the point is, like, women have a perception of, and it's like this. I think other people have noticed this too. You know, I'm not the progenitor of this thought, but it is a realization I think we all have to have, and that is a lot of like millennial women, like who are in my age bracket. Most men don't exist to them, quote unquote. They don't consider their existence. Like, they're only but orbiters. At most men are but orbiters to them. If anything, they're invisible. They're not even a thing. So what women are only, they're only perceiving the top best of males. In fact, I remember I've seen lots of different posts on the internet where most women don't even consider, I would say most women, but there's a lot of women who think that only like literally 1% of males that they see and like just going out through life are even attractive. They're like, their radar, like most men don't even exist on their radar. So when they talk about men, they have the absolute worst interpretation of males, because all they ever did was they just picked and they just baked into the absolute worst types of males in their environment, the top percentage of men who are going to run through them. Because here's what a lot of women aren't recognizing, because they're kind of stupid, and I really mean this. Some of them, they're just kind of dumb at this point here, but like, let's recognize this one out, right? If you want a guy that every girl wants, you got to be special, and that's what the desire is. I get the desire, but here's the thing, lady. One guy has 10 girls trying to date him. You're trying to fight 9 other girls. The only thing that's special about you is nothing. So why would he pick you and stay with you? A lot of women, they don't recognize that. They don't even think that, because they don't even have that self-awareness, right? So all of these women are like, they're upset that these guys are having side chicks and whatnot, but they're only picking high demand guys that other girls want anyway. And if these guys don't have any respect, because why would he respect any woman that's going to put up with his nonsense? You're only going to get caught in a self-fulfilling, or like, you're only going to get caught in a cycle doing the same thing over and over again. Now, here's the number one thing I want to you guys take away from this video before we start going in and really breaking down female dating strategies like in the future, in like future videos, right? Here's the thing. I make these videos for 2 reasons. One, mostly male entertainment, so men can laugh at this dumbass bullshit, because it's just so silly, okay? Like, it's too much. Most guys aren't awful human beings. Most women literally can just date normal guys and just be happy. So it's like, for me, it's so cathartic and hilarious to see these girls like complain when it's just like, nigga, you did that to yourself, man. I don't even know what to say, right? But also, for any female that comes along here, if for any one of them that may come along here, so you guys can get this and listen to this clear here, right? Not only do you need to reevaluate your perception and pool of men, are you only recognizing 1%, 10% of males, or are you recognizing as a whole, okay, as all of us are individual different people who feel differently about the world? Are you recognizing that? That's number one. But number two, do you recognize you don't have to get mentally destroyed before you finally start saying, hey, maybe I should be with people who treat me well and want a family and want to take care of me and be with me. Maybe I don't need to get cheated on 15 times. Maybe I don't need to get emotionally abused. Maybe I don't need to have all these awful things happen before I finally say, hey, let me just pick a nigga and be happy. You don't need any of that. So I want you guys to recognize that, because that is basically what female dating strategies is. It's a group of women who got destroyed mentally, and they are just have the worst interpretation of men, and they're lashing out. But funnily enough, they then have the audacity. They have the audacity to start talking about high-valued males. And you know what? Let's just save it for that video. With that being said, I just hope you guys got something out of today's video. We got some more stuff coming in soon. And if you did, man, go and click the like button. And shoot, go and click that subscribe button. Comment in the comment box below. As always, you guys have yourselves a great day. I'll see you cool cats soon. Adios.